Hello everyone, this is Jaime with the MidPointe Library System, and I have another Filling Your Sketchbook series. I'll kind of try to do several of these because we all know that this blank white page that we see on my screen can be super intimidating. Whether you're a writer, an artist, a graphic designer, it can just be hard sometimes to come up with something. And I'd like to give you some ideas and ways to potentially fill a sketchbook. And today I'm calling this drawing from life. And whether you do a physical setup where you have maybe some fruit from the kitchen laying out and spotlight it with a desk lamp, or look out your window and see what's going on outside. Like, you may want to first try with something that's not going to move on you. And so don't try to chase a squirrel around. But this is just a way to practice the way you look at something and then translate it from your brain to your hand. And the more you practice something like this, the stronger you'll be. And this is whether you're a beginner or an advanced artist. It's good to keep at your craft to make it better. Because just like a piano player or a sports athlete, they have to keep at it to make their skills sharper and more refined. And obviously, you're going to see me drawing from a photograph, and you are more than welcome to do something like that, especially if you don't have a whole lot of room at home to be able to do a setup. And what we're going to work with is on your blank page, I would probably go ahead and split it up into fairly 4 even quadrants. Or you could do one drawing on one page and then do another drawing on another. This is entirely up to you, but you'll kind of see what I'm doing or what I had done here in a second. But the image I worked with is from Pexels.com. They have copyright-free images on there, and I just love this site because it has a lot of really beautiful photographs, especially this one called Onions and Garlic by Carolina Grabowska. And I just really liked how dramatic some of the shadows were, but it still had a really good light on the main subject, which are these onions and garlic inside this square box. I just thought it would be a really great, not too busy image, but still kind of interesting to draw photo. And you are more than welcome to kind of do the same thing I did, or do your own setup, or look for your own photo that you would be more interested in drawing. But I'll kind of do the different step downs. Since I had you divide your paper up into 4 spaces, I would say one space could be used for sticking this photo in. You could always print a small one out and stick it on the page, or just stick it in your sketchbook somewhere so that you have it. But we're going to do 3 main things. The first sketch, and in the first box, will be a super loose sketch. The second one will be just a contour drawing where you're kind of refined the loose sketch into more definitive line work, like basically what a coloring book is, where you're trying to pay more attention to exactly the size relationships between the garlic and onion in the box. And then in the third one, you'll draw the contour lines again and still keep in the mind of keeping it refined. But then you'll be adding more tones of shadows and try to make the highlights stand out. So highlight is going to be like the white of your paper if you are using white paper. But going off of this image, I'll actually switch over to what I had drawn. Now, it'll be kind of weird to you potentially because I did this in Procreate and I'm actually showing you the speed painting of what I've done. I'll try to pause in between each one so you can see what I'm trying to explain to you without running through the whole thing all at once. Because pretty much if you sat here and watched me draw every little thing, we would run out of time because I do try to keep these videos under 30 minutes. So you can see on my piece of paper, we'll pretend my tablet's a sheet of paper, I divide it up into 4 quadrants. And again, you could do separate pieces of paper. I just wanted you to be able to see the step down process. So the first one, super loose sketch. Don't spend a lot of time on this. It's just going to be loose drawing. In fact, I'm already having to pause the video so you don't see the second one. But that first one, super loose, almost scribble lines. But you can still tell it looks like a square box, right? And you can tell there's some sort of items inside it. And I wasn't super concerned about the extra lines that form the garlic or the onions. I just kind of paid attention to size relationship, where certain things were within the box. Tried to put that middle garlic as much in the middle as possible. But don't fret about it. Don't try to erase a ton of your lines. Leave some of the mistake lines. You're just getting information down super fast. So if you're spending more than, I would say, 5 minutes on this, you're probably spending too much time because you really just want to take a look and really get an idea of what your subject looks like and how your composition is going to be, and then just start drawing it. So then in the second one, this is your contour line. So that top right box that I have that's already started, it's more refined line work. So I'm trying to be more careful with exactly where the onions are versus the garlic and some of those ridge lines that were on each vegetable. Then I tried to get those kind of defining shape lines. So it's still contour, but a little, I guess you could still say it's like a coloring book. I even put some of the grain in there so that you can see where the wood grain is. I didn't concern myself with the darkness, like all the shadows that are there. I just tried to get the shapes of the onion and the garlic and the box and tried to make sure they were sort of in the correct sizes. Now, obviously, now that I'm just glancing at it, I can see that some of the size relationships between some of the garlic and the onion is not quite right. But, you know, sometimes we'll just take artist liberties. But the more you'll draw something like this and the way I'm doing it, it does sort of reinforce how it probably should be. And each time I had to redraw it, I tried to tweak and fix some of those problems. But try not to fret about fixing and fixing and fixing. You're really just teaching your mind's eye to collect the information and get it down on the paper. So your third thing that you need to do is you're drawing it all again and you're trying to stick with those clean contour lines, but this time you're really wanting to add in tones of shadows and highlights. So you'll see some of my contour lines will kind of disappear, but I'll concentrate more on darks within it. Like that box has a beautiful like black in the background of those onions and garlic. So it really adds something dramatic to the image. And you can see when I was messing with the garlic in the top right or top left, that I kind of started doing some of those contour lines, but also concentrate on that shadow. And even to this day, for me, I do have trouble with the mid-tones. Like, I'm always pretty good at giving a really dark, dark and a really light, light, but those middle shadows can be a little hard for me. So sometimes I need to push myself a little bit more, and you can kind of see me tweaking that as I go. But you kind of just have to give yourself some slack on some of this stuff and take your time and draw it out. And as you're drawing, look at the object or your photograph and just give yourself enough time to truly look at the object and then draw it out. And draw it bit by bit. Don't try to rush. Obviously, this is a speed painting and it's like going way faster. Because doing this, I probably took a good hour to maybe an hour and a half, because I tried to really clean up some of my lines, especially in that third drawing, and get some of those tones. And really, as you go through, you're basically going from a really basic sketch to a more defined drawing. And from that final third drawing, you could take it to a final piece, really, or maybe this is a good setup for a potential painting that you want to do. But either way, it's another great way to fill up and potentially fill up 3 pages in your sketchbook if you didn't want to divide up your paper. But it just gives you another idea to fill that blank void that is your sketchbook at first. And feel free to do whatever different subject you want. I kind of used a pencil through most of this. Obviously, I was using a tablet, but in my Procreate app, I can tell it to do a pencil. And so something like that is really good for you to use for something like this, or charcoal. You can use ink or pen. Obviously, you just can't erase it. But just really don't try to limit yourself. You're trying to experiment and make yourself a well-rounded artist. If you're looking for more drawing techniques or drawing ideas, this is a great book for you to check out. It's called The Encyclopedia of Drawing Techniques by Hazel Harrison. She gives some great step-by-step illustrations and guide you through several different types of mediums. Like, there's not only pencil, but there's pen and ink. I believe there's even charcoal. She gives you quite a few different ways of drawing with different types of mediums. And it may just give you some additional ideas for your sketchbook. And I would say this would be good for a beginner or intermediate artist. It may not go in super deep to drawing, but it gives you at least an overview of multiple different things to help you maybe find something that you would really enjoy. So I highly recommend this book to check out and maybe fill more pages in your sketchbook, because honestly, that's really ultimately what we're trying to do is to at least practice our art and just fill up those pages in the sketchbook that may have been blank for a while, because I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes, for sure. But thank you so much for spending your time with me, and I hope I gave you an idea or two to continue in your sketchbook, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.